Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max, a host, and today on the program I have me, Max, a host, and nobody else. Because today, my awesome ghouls, I still haven't settled on what to call listeners of this podcast. Anyway, today on the program I am celebrating, kind of. I don't seem that thrilled about it. I acknowledge that today is the 50th episode of Ghoulish. Why not do something a little bit different? Why not do something special, right? Why not mix it up a bit? So instead of having a guest on, it's just me, Max Booth, a host, talking into a microphone. I have a little bit of a plan, but most of this, what I'm saying right now, there's no speech, obviously. I'm just... lots of anxieties going on, and I'm just speaking into a mic. Anything that comes into my head, I'm just saying it. For instance, how come people don't talk about Eight Heads in the Duffel Bag? That movie was pretty good. In fact, I would call it great. How come no one talks about it? Think about that. Google it. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if it's available to stream. I had it on DVD when I was a kid. Doesn't help any of us now. So... instead of just rambling the whole time during this episode, I thought it would be cool if I read some spooky stories from the internet. Now, I did an open call on the social media account. Follow us at Twitter at GhoulishPod. And folks also emailed us at ghoulishpod@gmail.com. I asked them, hey, what is the spookiest thing that's ever happened to you? Email me that, and I will read it on this podcast. Also, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll answer them. I got some pretty good spooky stories in. Got some awful questions. They all suck, but I'll read them anyway. Also, right before I began doing this podcast, I Googled, hey internet, what's some spooky stories you got? And the first thing that came up was a Reddit post called... what is the creepiest thing that has ever happened to you? Have not read any of these yet, but I thought I could switch off and on from reading some of the emails I got and some of these quick ones from Reddit. Why don't we just get right into that, huh? I'll begin with this one, the top one on Reddit. Okay. When I was in my 20s, I was fresh out of the closet and lived in the French Quarter. I began getting hang-up calls from someone, presumably a hookup. After a few months of sporadic calls, someone showed up outside of my window at around 2 a.m. and began blasting a tape recording of me saying, "Hello, hello," and then drove off. Ooh, that's pretty creepy, huh? Ooh, that's a little spooky. A little bit spooky. All right. Now, we did get some questions, as I mentioned. I don't have them up. I am a bad host. I am a bad host. What did I do with the questions? I saved them. Right in front of me. Okay, question 1. This is from Daniel Kraus, at Daniel D. Kraus. Now, if you don't know who Daniel Kraus is, he just released a new book called The Living Dead, co-written but with George Romero, who is in fact dead. Stay tuned next week. I actually have an episode of Ghoulish with Daniel that's going live Monday night. Until then, he has posed a question. What fuck wrong you? Now, Daniel, that's an excellent question. What fuck wrong me indeed? Now, to answer that question, I guess I would have to go back in time to when I did not read this question aloud. Moving on. Andrew Hilbert, who is a a frequent guest of this podcast at this point. You can follow him on Twitter at ahillbuilt3000. He has asked me what my favorite kettle is. And that's pretty simple, Andrew. My favorite kettle is Pillable. Obviously. What else can it be? Blue? I don't think so, buddy. I don't think so. Let's read some creepy stories now. Now, this was emailed to me from Thomas. You know that people crunching on the mic? That's me straightening you out because I printed out these creepy stories. Because it's quite a bit. Alright, this is from Thomas. Hey, Max. I was working in a supermarket in my 20s, and one day I was stocking one of the shelves with biscuits. And in parentheses, he says, not cookies, biscuits. I don't know why he thought to need to tell me that, but alright. It was a quiet shop and a quiet day. I was alone in the aisle and focused on the job at hand. Then, I noticed this strange-looking woman standing quite close to me. She seemed annoyed about something, sneering at me, and her appearance was quite deceitful. Maybe she's just, maybe you smelled, Thomas. Maybe you did smell. I don't know what kind of bathing habits you have. It's always possible. Going on. Yeah, I was on the floor, so I looked up into her face, waiting to see if she had a question. She said, "You disgust me," and continued to look down at me. I was uncomfortable and shaken, so I left the aisle. Now, Thomas, don't feel too bad. I've had many ladies tell me I disgust them. It's just a part of human life. You disgust quite a few people. Not you specifically, Thomas, but everybody disgusts somebody at one point in their lives. It's just a thing. Going back on. I came back a couple of minutes later and she was gone. Nobody else witnessed the incident, so do not bother asking around. I can only assume she was a time traveler from the future, come to the past to berate me for something terrible I am yet to do. Then he adds a side note that says, I have never done anything terrible up until the time of sending this email. Well, actually what, Thomas? It's either yes or no. Did you do something? Did you not? Please let us know. He goes on to say, this is the only spooky thing that has ever happened to me, and if you get another email from this account claiming to have details of more spooky things, then they are lying. Or it is me emailing from the future when more spooky stuff has happened to me. Or I remembered something else spooky that happened. Good day to you, sir, Thomas. Good day to you, Thomas. Yeah. I mean, like I said, everybody disgusts somebody. I wouldn't take it too personally. I don't think she was time traveling, although the idea of someone time traveling just to tell somebody they disgust them, pretty amusing. Like, would you travel back in time to tell baby Hitler that he disgusts you and then just walk away? I would. I've told many babies they disgust me. It's one of the best things you can do with a baby because they can't really, like, say anything back. So, like, fuck that baby. Fucking you disgust me, you little baby boy. You little baby boy. Yeah, well, thank you, Thomas. That was a fun email. Let's take a new question. How about it? Okay, this is from at Eve Helms writes, why did you decide to name the podcast Ghoulish instead of Ghoulish? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's right there in the title. Would you rather listen to something just called Ghoulish, or do you want to listen to something called Ghoulish? I mean, I don't need to explain that anymore. Moving on. This is from at Noggin Book. Now, Noggin Book wants to know, at what age did you realize you wanted to be a writer? 29. Noggin Book also wants to know who are some of my influences and go-to author reads. Well, I think big fan of John Dies at the End by David Wong. It's a good example of a horror and comedy mixed together well. I'm a big fan of Well, I like a lot of crime fiction too. I know this is a spooky podcast, but big fan of that crime fiction. Probably my maybe possibly my favorite novel of all time is The Devil All the Time by what the fuck's his name? Donald Ray Pollock? Let's look this fucking thing up, shall we? Okay, The Devil All the Time. Donald Ray Pollock. Yeah, that's a great book. I want to reread it soon because Netflix is releasing a film adaptation in September, I think. Oh boy, that's like a month away. Hot damn. Hot diggity damn, I would say. Hot diggity damn indeed. Book Noggin has more questions. If you could co-write with someone, who would it be? Someone with a large following who will become an instant bestseller just because of the name alone. I would like money. I enjoy money. I like spending money on breakfast tacos. So, I don't know. Any one of those people. Alright, that was the final question from Book Noggin. Thank you, Book Noggin. Oh, fuck. I fucked that up. I'm not going to re-record this. It's not Book Noggin. It's Noggin Book. Follow them at Noggin, Noggin, Book. Now that is spelled, surprisingly, Book. Don't fuck that up now like I did. Let's take a new spooky story from Reddit.com. Ooh, that isn't a spooky story. That looks like a rape. I'm not going to read that one. Oh, that's another rape. What the fuck? What's up with these rape stories? Good God. That also might possibly be a molestation story. Okay, this one looks good. A few years back, I woke up in the middle of the night. We had a 2-month newborn sleeping in the room next door. I had a video monitor on my bedside table so that my wife and I could easily check on him. So I clicked the button that turns on the video image, and what I saw skilled me like nothing ever before. My baby boy was gone. Now I know that instincts should have made me run right into the baby's room. Instead, I froze. I looked over, and my wife was sleeping next to me. Finally, I moved, but not to run into the other room like I should have done. Instead, I turned up the volume on the baby monitor. I heard another woman's voice singing a lullaby. Oh, I'm not kidding. Another woman was singing to my baby in a really soft, gentle, and melodic voice. I don't remember what song it was. Something like, "Go to sleep, little baby." Finally, my freeze broke. I jumped up, ran through the hallway, and burst into my boy's room. He was sound asleep in his crib. No woman, no singing. Turns out the monitor was picking up my next-door neighbor's monitor. They had just bought the video monitor for their own newborn on our recommendation. Nothing supernatural, but I don't know if I've ever experienced something scarier. That is fucking terrifying. My God. Whew. Yeah, I would have, it's a good thing this person wasn't a owner of a gun, because I imagine they would have ran into that room just shooting blindly. That would have been no good. I don't know what happens when you own a gun. I assume if you own a gun, you just run into every room shooting before you make yourself comfortable. That's how I would do it. Like, if I had to go to the bathroom, I would just shoot the toilet. I shot a toilet in Reno just to see if it would flush. That was stupid. Moving on. Any more questions? Okay, yes. This is a question from Jonathan Rabb. At Jonathan Rabb 1. Now, before I get into his question, he just announced a new novelette that he's selling. I don't have it in front of me, but you know what? I'm in front of a desktop. I can look up anything I want in this new age. So as I'm looking at this, what should I talk about? I don't know if I can type and talk at the same time, to be honest with you. I guess that's why podcast editing is a thing, but I'm not going to do that. Alright, I found it. So if you go over to muzzlelandpress.still.nvy.com, you will find Jonathan Rabb's new novelette, The Crypt of Blood, a Halloween TV special on sale now. And if you buy a copy now, if you pre-order it, it comes with a soundtrack bonus. Pretty fucking cool. Jonathan Rabb was a previous guest on Ghoulish. We talked about found footage TV whole stuff. But also, Trevor Henderson, also a previous guest of Ghoulish, to the front cover, and it's really fucking great. It's like this spooky skeleton with the eyes popping out. Go buy that. I bought it. And I can't wait to buy it. I can't wait to read it. Maybe we'll have Jonathan back on the podcast once I read it and we can talk about it. That'd be fun, huh? Ha ha. I'm talking to a microphone with no guests, alone in a bedroom. I have never felt more like a creep in my life. Oh yes, he has a question I need to ask. Okay. So Jonathan, at Jonathan Rab 1 says, why is the Wickleman remake so dang good and cool? I've not seen the remake of The Wicker Man since I was a child, but I do remember drinking alcoholic beverages with my best friend growing up and watching the video on YouTube of Nicolas Cage running around the town punching people in the face. And we laughed quite a bit. We would watch that often. So I guess my answer is because Nicolas Cage is a really entertaining person to watch. And I would watch any movie he's in. He's awesome. I love him. Yeah, so that's my answer to that. Jonathan Rabb 1. I have actually one last person who asked questions, so I'll get that out of the way, and then we'll read a bunch of more creepy stories. This is from Patrick at PLMCDONOUGH. McDonough, I guess. Maybe. I suck at pronouncing names. You know that already if you've listened to any episode of Ghoulish. Okay, so the question Patrick wants to know is, what is Ghoulish? I'm not going to answer that. Follow-up question. If you could be an armadillo, how many pizza could you fit in your shell? Last question, how many questions am I allowed to ask? I'm not going to answer any of those. Okay, well, thanks for those questions, Patrick. They were useless to me and did not help the show at all. You should be ashamed of yourself. Also, hey, go listen to Patrick's podcast, Dead Headspace. I was recently a guest. It went as well as those questions just went. So thanks, Patrick. All right. Let's do some little creepy stories, shall we? I have lots of emails I need to get through. So we should get through those emails, right? Right? Okay. Next email is from Sadie Hilman. Now, she's been on the show like, 2-3 times at this point? She rocks. She co-owns the Night Rooms package service, spooky delivery program. I don't know how to describe it, but it's an awesome place, awesome company. Go support Night Rooms. And let's see what spooky thing she has to tell me. Hey, Max, a host. A spooky thing that once happened to me is when we moved our family to an old house in my hometown. The house was built in like 1890 or something, so it was old and fucking haunted. It was our first night sleeping in the house. We were all exhausted from the move. We helped the kids set up their beds, and they had crawled into the sheets and fell asleep as soon as their heads hit the pillows. My husband and I were sprawled out on our own bed, just talking about whatever, when we heard hard and fast footsteps slapping down the long hallway to the room. I lifted up my head to see who was too skilled to sleep, and nobody came in the room. After a few seconds, my husband whispered, "What the who?" and got up to look. There was nobody in the hallway. He checked on all the kids, and they were all asleep. This was just the first in a series of strange, ghosty stuff that happened to us in that house. That's pretty creepy. You know, at one point, the lady I live with, she has 2 kids. Not going to name them, obviously. There's some creeps on the internet. I don't want any internet stalking going on, you see. But they spill up and down while doing dishes. They heard someone in the kitchen go, "Hello, hello." I don't know if it was in that voice exactly, but I like to imagine it was. And also, everybody in this house, except for me, because I have not witnessed anything, they claim they They used to be able to hear tiny footsteps, almost like children in the kitchen. So we might have a haunted kitchen. Maybe. I don't know. It might not be true at all. Maybe they made it up to prank me. I don't know. Thank you, Sadie. That was a fun email. Okay, what little emails do I got? Okay, this is from M. This one is kind of a bum out, so no judgment if you don't use it. That's how M begins this email, which is already promising. Let's get into it. I don't think of myself as psychic or anything, but I had what I consider to be a premonition, okay? The worst nightmare of my life. My, in parentheses, now dead, end parentheses, real-life boogeyman showed up at my apartment and forced his way in and damaged, tainted, destroyed everything I loved. I screamed myself awake, had to force myself to get back into bed after... And not long after, everything I loved began being destroyed or stolen from me. It's been ongoing like a slow-working cancer. Never had a dream like that before in my life. Happy holidays, M. Well, M, you will correct that. It does seem like a bit of a bum out. And I'm sorry that happened. That sucks. But hey, at least you have Ghoulish to listen to. At least everybody has Ghoulish to listen to, and isn't that great? I mean, even I have Ghoulish to listen to because I have to edit this fucking podcast. And I get to listen to myself talk. Not only am I sitting in the room away from everybody, talking into a mic with nobody else listening at the moment that I'm talking, at least. After I'm done, I then have to get my headphones in and listen to what I just said. And if that's not the saddest thing in the universe, I don't know what is. A man talking to himself. Okay, let's take a look at some more Reddit creepy stories. Jesus Christ, this one is another rape story. I don't want to read those. Okay, this one seems okay. Let's get into it. I used to have a shit job at a casino that got me working some pretty strange hours. Someday I would work a normal 9 to 5. Others I would go in at 6 p.m. and not leave until 2 or 3 a.m. Not a big deal, except by the time in the morning all the parking spaces around my apartment building would be taken. So I had to park a few blocks away and walk to get to my building. I would park, get my pepper spray and keys in hand, lock my car, and walk the block or two to my building. I never felt like I was in any way unsafe until one night when I found a when I found a parking space across the street from my building that happened to be in front of a bar. I pulled into the space and got my keys ready. I noticed a guy smoking in the doorway of the bar about 5 vehicles down, but he was looking in the other direction and didn't seem to care that I was around. I got out of the car and was about halfway across the street before he noticed I was a female, and I heard him yell, "Hi, sweetie!" I ignored him, and that must have pissed him off because he yelled, "Bitch!" I started sprinting to my building when I heard the sound of him running up behind me. The building I lived in at the time had been built a long time ago and everything was outdated, including the security system. After 10 p.m., the doors would lock automatically, and then you would have to put a key in the lock and turn it for the doors to open, and it would take forever. I finally got the door open and had just shut it before he got there and was yanking at the handle and screaming at me. Good God! That sucks. That sucks. Okay, let's find something that isn't sad, isn't such a bundle. A lot of these stories on this Reddit thread are just like, I am a woman and a man tried to do things to me, which I don't want to read. I don't want you to listen to. Okay, here's a potentially good one. Years ago, my then wife and I would run into the same woman everywhere we went. And I mean everywhere we went. This went on for about a year. Go to the grocery store, she would be there shopping. Starbucks, yup, sitting right behind us. Walking behind the mall, she would pass us walking in the other direction. Movie theater, she'd be behind us in line getting popcorn. Okay, this is pretty creepy. I agree. The creepiest encounter was while driving on the freeway. My wife looked at the car next to us and screamed. Yup, it was her. She was always alone, never talked to us, and always made eye contact. She had a really unique appearance, too. She was really tall, thin, and had tight skin on her face. She was so unusual that we joked that we were being studied by an alien. It was some serious glitch in the Matrix stuff. Yo, that's the fucking plot to It Follows, I think. And I do think one of you two probably needed to have sex with somebody else to pass on the It Follows disease. Yikes. Okay, let's do one more from Reddit, and then we'll read the final email I have. This is it begins with not me, but my grandfather. Now, my grandfather had been in WW2, what could that stand for? I don't know, and told us about when himself and a few other soldiers had been separated from his unit and were trying to get to Normandy. They had gone through a clearing in a wooded area, but had to drop when they heard something approaching. They were on their bellies in low grass when they saw 20 or 30 German soldiers running across the clearing, clearly in a state of panic. And then they just froze in mid-step. He said they resembled statues, and that some weren't even touching the ground, and that there was no noise whatsoever. Even the birds had gone silent. After a few seconds came a loud noise like metal scraping on concrete, and the frozen soldiers began to become blurry to the point at which they vanished without a trace. This had been reported by all of us who were present, and all were calling to the office in London after the return to the UK. Well, they were pressed on what they saw over the period of a few days, and we were taken back to the same spot in France shortly after the war had ended. Surprisingly, when they got there were other men sharing the same accommodation who reported similar occurrences in the exact same area. They were all taken to the woods and had to describe where and how the events took place. My granddad had said that the entire area was guarded heavily and that part of the ground was heavily excavated. The strangest thing to all of the others, he said, was that there was hundreds of dogs in the area, just milling around for no reason. Well, that's just the definition of dogs. That's what they do, man. Anyway, he went back to the same spot in France before he died in 1985 and said that the area had been covered with unmarked wheelhouses and was guarded by an unusually professional security company. He reckoned they were military. I've tried to find out more about this, but can't find any records of it. But I do remember one of the guys who he was with the same day. He used to come and visit sometimes and referred to the place as the Splintered Woods. What the fuck? Well, that's some X-Files shit right there, yo. That is some X-Files shit. Alright, well, I think this podcast has been going okay, right? I don't know. I don't have like a live audience to get the gauges from. If no one's laughing, no one's frowning at me, no one's saying boo. That's how you boo somebody. You go boo. But if you're booing me, I never know if I'm being booed because I just don't know if someone's trying to say my last name really dragged out in a way. So like maybe they'll go boo is great, and that would be a compliment. I will read this last email now from Michael Lewis Dixon. He has not been a guest on the program yet, but he's going to be soon. He's been in my magazine, Dark Moon Digest. He wrote a story called The Melting Man. Pretty good story. Don't know what issue it was off the top of my head. Anyway, he wrote a long email, so I'm going to read it now. I was visiting my mother, whom I had not seen in a while. She was breeding Yorkshire Terriers at the time and had about 5 of the dogs roaming around the house. While most of them were pretty small, one of them was of good size and must have weighed around 12 or so pounds. She was the mama who took her role as alpha female very seriously. My mother had also had a couple of cats, and thankfully the two species of animals seemed to get along decently. Anyhow, my mother and I enjoyed a nice evening of pizza, beer, and a couple of spooky videos from Blockbuster. I love dogs, and it was a lot of fun to spend time playing with them and watching the movies. When it was time to sleep, Mom set up with a sleeping bag. When it was time to sleep, Mom set me up with a sleeping bag on the living room floor. She went off to her room, and all the little dogs went off with her. I'm sure it was an interesting jigsaw puzzle of Yorkies and also my mama on that bed. I woke up in the middle of the night with a strong need to piss and a really dry mouth. Well, that seems like a solution to both those issues. You gotta piss, and also you have a dry mouth. You know where to aim that dick, buddy. Anyway, the place was dark, but I could not see enough from the outside streetlights to make my way across the room, through the dining room, and down the hall to the bathroom. It was much darker in there, so I had to flip on the overhead light. All right. The email goes on to say, you know that feeling of being suddenly blinded by the flood of midnight illumination? The light comes into your eyes like a corrosive substance. What are you doing, Michael? Are you trying to write a goddamn short story for this email? Get on with it. You don't have to impress me with fancy sentences. Okay. Now that I'm done nagging Michael, let me continue what he said. You cringe and clamp your eyes shut, but that defeats the purpose, because now not only can't you see shit, but you are in physical discomfort as well, so you force your eyes open no matter how difficult until they adjust. Well, I went through all that just to take a piss. By the time I finished, my eyes had adapted, and it was time to head to the kitchen for a glass of H2O. And I flipped the lights off, and suddenly it's pitch black. That was okay, though. I took it slowly and felt my way in front of me like any good horror movie victim in the dark should. I trailed my hand along the wall and stepped in the direction I was certain led toward the kitchen. My eyes slowly began to adapt to the dark again, and I could make out the dining room furniture. A big dark rectangle to my right had to be the kitchen. The room was way too dark to see into, though, so I groped along the inside wall, trying to find the light switch. Cool and smooth tile, but no switch. I moved to the other side of the door and felt around until I touched it. I flipped the switch up and the room built with brightness. This time it wasn't as bad as it had been in the bathroom. My eyes were mostly ready for it, but they were not ready for what I saw. If you don't want to listen to me read something about animals having sex, I recommend clicking the skip 30 seconds button. Okay. In the center of the floor, a cat stretched forward, bent down, and his ass end up. Mounting it from behind was the alpha female Yorkie. That dog had a body grip onto that cat and was grinding out a fucking solid hump. I looked at this compilation with shock. The cat looked back at me. The dog looked back at me. Both now paused in the act, but neither disengaging. It was as if this had become a contest. Or a depth of shame, or whatever. I blinked first. Sorry, I said. Excuse me. I turned away and flicked off the light and went up to my sleeping bag. From the kitchen, I could hear the light jangle of dog tags until I fell asleep. None of us spoke about this in the morning. Michael Lewis Dixon. Well, Michael, I'm glad you shared that with us. I assume this was a short story you wrote that was rejected from Playboy, and I have to say they made the right decision. I love you, Michael. It's gonna be okay. Don't forget that. It's gonna be okay. Well, this has been the 50th episode of Ghoulish. I hope you folks enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't think I've ever sat in front of a microphone and talked this long to nobody at all. It's been odd. It's been a little bit spooky, I would say. We have a Patreon. go to patreon.com/PMM Publishing. You could support us. We have lots of cool things going on with that Patreon. Just $1, you subscribe to the magazine we put out, Dark Moon Digest. $2, you get an ongoing choose your own eventual that I'm writing. I've actually only posted one entry so far, but I do have one coming up either this weekend or mid next week. It just depends how quickly I can get it done. I also do like an audio format of that choose your own eventual thing, so that takes time to record as well. And also at the $5 pledge on Patreon, I do a writing prompt. I send out a creative writing prompt, and you write something based on that, and then I give it a quick edit, and I tell you what I think of it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Ghoulish Pod, and if you have a true live spooky story, email it to me at ghoulishpod@gmail.com. Maybe I will do one of these episodes again down the line, make it an ongoing thing, true spooky stories from the internet. Is that something you want? Let me know. Is this something you never want to listen to again? Don't let me know. That would be mean, and I would cry. I think that's about it. I guess I can end this episode with a true spooky story of my own. That would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, I'll do that. But before I tell you this, if you enjoy the podcast, hey, tell your friends. Go rate and review us on iTunes. That would be cool. Leave some spooky reviews on iTunes. I want to see some spooky reviews. I don't give a shit if you like the podcast. I just want to see some spooky reviews. All right. So I guess I'll tell you about some dreams I had about this guy once. I don't exactly want to tell you about the guy himself because, privacy and all that. But I had 2 dreams about him after he died. I don't exactly remember the first one all that well, but it was about meeting him in town somewhere, and he gave me some money, and I think I lost it, right? But the second dream, it was like we was both back in old times, and I was on horseback going through the mountains of a night. Going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold, right? Okay, and a little snow on the ground, and he rode past me, but he kept on going. Never said nothing. He just rode on past, and he had this blanket wrapped around him, and he had his head down. And when he rode past, I seen he was carrying file and a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it. And it was about the color of the moon, I would say. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead and that he was fixing to make a file somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he would be there. And then I woke up.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Well, remember, rate and review the podcast. It helps our rankings.